Hello and welcome back to Starting Point, still the greatest point in which you start your day, with your hosts Luisa Kristander and Audrey Utoyo. And Luisa, as we mentioned before, we are going to have an invigorating dialogue, one that's inspirational, coming from the authors of the book 100 Things I Wish I Knew Earlier.
And we have the book right here. It's
yes, we do.
100 Things I Wish I Knew Earlier. And we have our two beautiful ladies today with us on Starting Point. We have Grace Tahir as well as Jacqueline Karina, two out of the three authors of this book. Thank you so much for being here
Hello,
on
ladies.
Starting Point. First of all, this is not your first book, right? Can you tell us about the previous book that you've written and what inspires you to write this very third book?
Okay, the previous book is This Is Not a Good Book. That also written with Grace Tahir and Fun, so the same authors. It was published last year, not last year, 2 years ago in 2023. And this is correlated but different theme, with the third book that I have. This is also a third book for Grace,
Yes.
Wow, and we have the book right here as well, so the audience can see that this is not a cookbook, a book about life's recipes. I love that you always have such intriguing title for your books.
Yeah, and sometimes it can also be a bit misleading, you know.
That's true.
Jacqueline, one of my friends actually gave me this book for my birthday, and the first response that I gave to her was like, hey, you know I don't cook, right? Why do you give me this book? And she's like, you need to read it carefully because it says this is not a cookbook. It's actually about life lessons. And this one right here, it says 100 Things I Wish I Knew Earlier. Can you tell us the process about writing this book? Perhaps Grace can tell.
You start. Why you wanted to do a second book?
Okay, so maybe if we look at the This Is Not a Cookbook, the previous book, it's more about our journals about life. So it doesn't have any theme, not like precise focus, but for the third book, the 100 Things I Wish I Knew Earlier, we already have like a red line, like we know what we want to write in the specific theme, like maybe it's career, money,
we
love,
can see right
friendship,
here.
and family. So it's more like structured compared to the previous book. But of course, both have their own strengths.
And this pretty much covers everything. It goes on from happiness, which is pretty general, and then career, money, self-image, love, even to death. This is pretty deep. So these are all the things that you have experienced throughout your entire lives, right?
And everybody will experience those things as well, right?
What about you, Grace? What makes you decides to join this project and to give all your life lessons in this book?
Well, kudos to Jacqueline because she's the one who invited me from the first time, and I've never written a book before, and I would not say I'm a good writer.
After 3 books, you are.
I always get help. I mean, I kudos to Jacqueline, to the editors, of course, behind all of this. But I think when Jacqueline proposed the idea to me for the first book, I thought it was kind of interesting because, you know what, I've also shared on my social media the things that I've experienced, and hopefully that people get inspired and also helped in a practical way. So why not put it, in a book format? Because I also have a book club. So I hope that through this, you know what I mean? It's kind of like a combination between the two things that, my experiences plus reading, the love of reading books. So that's the whole reason why I wanted to do this.
And being someone who is very vocal on social media, I know Jacqueline shares a lot of her, life lessons too on Instagram, and you like to share on TikTok and Instagram. What is the difference between sharing on social media and vice versa on the book?
Oh, like I just said, I'm such a bad writer, to be honest. I have a lot of ideas, I have a lot of notes, but to be able to translate that to actual written language was not so easy for me. So that's the biggest challenge, especially it's in Bahasa Indonesia, right? So I tried to do my best, but I think the team behind the publisher, in this case, Gramedia, really did a good job in terms of putting the right, the right words, the right language to what I wanted to say.
I see.
And why the title 100 Things I Wish I Knew Earlier? I mean, it's quite interesting because
it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yes, and you chose like the perfect round number of 100 things. How are you able to narrow down the topics to 100 life lessons throughout the years?
So basically, there's the topics is a common thing we will face. The challenge that we will face in life. And actually, through our journey in life, we have a lot of regrets and a lot of mistakes. To be honest, I kept on dwelling on it, like kept on dwelling on my mistakes and my regrets. And later, I think, why maybe I should write it as a book, so I don't make it like a waste. Because I think that, you know, the regret is wasting time, wasting money, wasting everything, you know. And if the mistakes can be fruitful for other people, then it's not going to be a waste.
Sharing the wisdom
Yeah.
to other people, especially for the youngsters.
Yes.
You know, like what people say, when you're young, you're dumb. Unfortunately, we have so many mistakes that we need to learn.
Yeah.
And you know, as we grow older, we learn, as you said, and we share it to other people.
It's better to learn from other people's experience, yeah. So you don't,
Rather than going to
yeah, so you don't
do
pay
it.
a lot of costs and consequences.
I see.
And Grace, do you also echo Jacqueline in this term of you want to impart your wisdom to the next generation?
Yes.
Of course. And Grace, you have 3 young, beautiful girls.
Yes.
I mean, of course, you want to tell them what is it that they need to learn as they're growing up, rather than, as Jacqueline said, you're going through these mistakes in life. Although you need to learn from your mistakes.
Sure.
Jacqueline, if you can just go a bit to the deep end. You said that you've learned so much from your mistakes, whether it's career, whether it's relationship. What are the first, let's say, mistakes that come up to your mind before writing this book? What is it that you want to channel through this book?
The most is money, about money. You know, because the time can be the 8th wonder of the world with the compound interest and everything that I just knew in my 30s that I should know maybe, you know, 15 years earlier or 20 years earlier, the wisdom of financial. Because maybe in this book, it's not only about money and career, yeah. There's 8 other topics about life and deeper relationship and happiness and self-development. But actually, we cannot deny that money is a very important thing in building ourselves and in building our family and community.
So those are some of the most, I guess, significant
lessons, I think, for most people, especially the young ones.
If you can just share a bit of what kind of lessons, what kind of money lessons do you think?
I don't have financial knowledge, even the basic one, because my family, they don't teach me that.
I think a lot of families don't teach women especially about like money education.
Yes. They don't teach me that, so they're very conservative, and I agree with what you said. So they think that money is a man's problem lah. Why you have to think about money? But it's very hard because we also need to protect ourselves and to be independent. And at least if you choose not to be independent, you have to have wisdom in financial, so it will protect you for the rest of your life, and can also protect your kids if you have, or the other family, because if you mess up, the other people can pay the consequences as well.
That's true. I mean, it's the generational aspect is very important to it. And Grace, do you also feel that money is an important value, like one of the life lessons that's really important to elaborate, especially on this book?
Money is definitely important. I always say that. I don't want to be hypocritical and say money, you know, you don't need money to be happy and things like that. But I think if you're going back to the first question you asked to Jacqueline, was that the one thing that I feel like I regretted and wished I did earlier would be self-worth. You know, and I think self-worth is very tied to all the 8 things that's in this book, whether it's money, whether it's career, even the idea of knowing death, where we're going to end up one day, right? It all ties up to who we are and how do we value ourselves. So I think when I was younger, and I think this echoes with a lot of young generations, they don't have that self-worth, right? And that's why people, you know, do things or follow certain things and ideologies because they're trying to find their identities, right? Because they don't have the self-worth, they're not confident at the time. But, you know, looking back, now I'm already almost 50 years old, you're almost 40 years old, right? We start to realize that a lot of things that we thought we were so worried about, we're so anxious, they're nothing, right? You have bigger realistic problems that you need to face more than those things, right? But unfortunately, it does take time to be able to get to that point. But I do hope, once again, we do hope that through this book, people can see that, you know what? even though you're young, you can build your self-worth from that young age. And I think also the same thing with money for Jacqueline. Nobody really talked about it, especially in my generation. I'm Generation X. Nobody really talk about self-worth, you know, finding out
There's
yourself.
a lot of things that we don't talk about, actually.
Exactly, right? So we just kind of
Yeah, and
put
we
it all
ended up
inside.
speaking about all this unimportant stuff on social
Exactly,
media, right?
exactly, yeah.
Do you teach money to your girls?
Absolutely.
You do?
I do.
Okay, all right.
The more important thing is that I teach them the value of the money.
Okay.
Like, you know, first of all, you have to expect, you cannot expect that money will easily come. Doesn't matter your background and privileges. Money can come and go easily because money, and second is that money does not belong to you. Money belongs to God, right? God is just entrusting you with this money. So make good use of that to help other people. So those two things I always tell them.
Okay, well, that's a life lesson we need to relearn again, you know.
Yes, and I mean, for our audience, it's very valuable to know that mindset of financial literacy, because I always hear that it's not about how much money you have, but it's about how you manage your money. And so that's such a great lesson that you share of like how being a good manager is of the utmost importance. I'm curious, when you were both writing this book, what was the process of writing? What was the writing process like? Especially it's a joint book. So I'm sure that, you know, even writing one book yourself might already take a lot of internal, you know, self-exploration and having to write that all into, you know, words. But a joint book with 3 authors, I'm sure that there had to be some kind of realignment in your process. Can you please share with us what that was like?
The headache is with her, not with me.
She's the team leader,
So actually the idea of having these 2 books coming from the other author, it's called Fun, yeah?
Fun is a photographer.
Yes.
She's a photographer
Artist,
and she's also an artist. She's a painter also. And this is the ideas coming from her because she has the artistic purpose.
Visualization.
And behind, and she's also a writer too. And this is also, I think, her 3rd book also. And she loves journaling. So when the ideas comes, I think it's interesting because it has a good purpose for the young generation, for women, for, you know, the community that we have. But the challenge may be the realignment, of course, because everybody has their own style of writing.
I see.
And everybody has their own point of view. For example, Fun is very artistic, it's very deep, it's very romantic, that maybe I cannot capture the romanticism, for example. But when we cook that 2 books, then we agree with the publisher that just be yourself, and then it's okay to make it each other point of view, because everybody has their own background and their own journey in life, and it can always be a lesson for other people. So maybe the realignment of the topics, the themes, the writings, and the most difficult part, I think, time. Because both of
always chasing deadline.
because both of them are very like Grace
Busy
and
people,
Fun.
and you are also a very busy person.
And then we have deadlines. For example, for This Is Not a Cookbook, the deadline is 6 months from publisher, and for 100 is 4 months from publisher.
That's pretty quick. That's a very tight
I remember
deadline.
I was in the US visiting my daughter, and she said, Grace on WhatsApp, you know what, you still have not submitted your, was it 10 or 10 articles, so on the flight back from America to Indonesia, I was just trying to write every single thing.
A very productive flight. Jacqueline, now being the team leader of this book, I'm just curious, why did you pick Grace as well as Fun to join you here? You all have very different personalities and very different background. How did you end up with this team?
The idea comes from Fun, actually. The idea comes from Fun. Why? Because maybe in Fun's point of view, all of us likes to share in Instagram and in social media. And actually a lot of people asking like, can you repeat, because it's only 24 hours, right?
On the stories.
On the story, can you repeat, can you put it in the highlights? Because I want to read it again, I want to give it to my daughters and everything. But you know, to put it in the highlight, also has a capacity, yeah. You cannot put everything in the
I think
highlights.
there's a maximum of 100 stories in a highlight. I know.
And then for some of us, that maybe we want our highlight more artistic lah. It's not our just random writing. That's why the idea is coming from there. Why don't put it into a book?
But maybe I'll add to the question as well. I think the similarity between the three of us is that we're all women. We all, were or are married, and we also have children. So I think we just want to find somebody who's similar, but in terms of age as well, it's kind of like different generations, I'm sorry, but kind of similar to that point as well.
Yeah, I mean, you relate, right?
Yes, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. And we actually we actually knew each other as well, so I mean, that's kind of helpful as well, right? When we have the
chemistry is already there, the bond is there.
That's right, that's right.
Going back to the book, I mean, like just from the artistic side of it, you can see that this is a book that resonates to women. You mean like artistic?
That's fun, man. That's all fun.
Such a pretty book.
That's fun.
Why do you choose to target the women audience for this book? Why women? Why not just the general audience to learn about life lessons?
Sure. I think because we are women, so it just gravitates automatically or naturally to women. But I would not say it's just a book for women.
I see.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I guess because our followers are mostly
do you
women.
Think as women, we face more challenges that maybe men don't really face on their daily lives.
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Especially maybe on relationship side. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a given that all of us with our identities and personal responsibilities would have different things to bring on the table.
Sure.
And I'm sure that it's very well encapsulated here. And we have to have a short break, and we are so curious to learn more about this book. So stay tuned only on Starting Point on TVR World, because we'll be right back. And welcome back to Starting Point. Still back with our host. I'm Audrey Utoyo.
And I'm Luisa Kusnandar, and we're still on Starting Point here discussing about 100 things to learn. Actually, it's 100 things I wish I knew.
Yes, we wish we knew earlier.
Earlier in life. And we're just discussing about some of our favorite lessons. If I can just read it here. It's I like lesson number 14 from Jacqueline, where it says, I wish I knew earlier that time doesn't heal, but what we do to the scar can heal. And I think this is a very unique perspective, because usually, as a cliche, we always hear people say, time will heal, don't worry, relax. In time, you will be okay again. And here you're saying, time doesn't heal, what we do to the scar can heal. What is it from your experience that brings you to this life lesson?
I have a lot of traumatic life moments, and I think it leaves scars and maybe a trauma inside me. Yeah, but then I always trust that time will heal. So I put a lot of activity. It's like rebound activity, just to distract myself from the scars that I have. Until one day, I met Hannah Carol that I mentioned in the book. She's actually more into the family and children education, and she's really
also an author.
She's also an author, and she's really having day-to-day some kind of therapy, to help people with their scars. So she asked me one day, like, what do you do to your scar? And then did you do anything? Did you put effort in it? Like, did I go to therapists, talk to professional about my trauma? Did I projecting this trauma to other people in my life decisions? And I think she's right. And I start to look at it more professionally and to heal, so I don't need to project it to other people, like to my kids or to my friends, because I have that trauma. So I think I'm doing generalization lah, like, oh, every man the same, oh, every every situation will be and then every situation that's maybe similar like mine will be end up like mine. I don't need to do that, and can see from very objective perspective.
Starting a clean slate again.
Yes.
So how did you end up learning? How did you heal yourself then from all these traumas in your life?
I mostly learn about why people do that. So it's not focused on me again anymore. But why people can do that? Oh, they have maybe their own trauma bond from their family, maybe it's generational. So what can I do to make it generational to my kids, for example? Or what can I do if I face the same situation? I have the different perspective. It's no longer me, but maybe they have other issues.
Have their own
yes,
issues.
maybe sometimes it's not me, so I don't need to victimize myself always. But maybe it's them that have their own scars and their own trauma bond that they're projecting it on me.
Yeah, as what you said here in the book, she said that bukan waktu yang menyembuhkan luka, tapi pengertian. So it's the understanding, understanding why they are reacting that way.
And why I'm reacting also that way.
We all have our own traumas in life, sadly speaking. Yeah,
I think that must have taken a long time as well to come into understanding yourself of that fact and be able to write it on the book. So thank you so much, Jacqueline, for sharing that experience with us.
Okay. Also learn from other people, for example, this one, Hannah Carol is also a professional that maybe already helped many people, maybe thousands of people. So
and it's good. I mean, like once you are healed, you can also pass on the wisdom, which is what you both are doing now through this book.
Yes. One of the lessons, Luisa, that I think slapped me in the face was one in lesson number 3 that I believe you wrote, Grace, of what are you looking for? Apa yang sebenarnya kita cari? And that is so meaningful to me because I think especially coming from the younger generation, that is something that we ask quite often. And I'm wondering, Grace, how did you come up to finally write that lesson? What are we looking for? And have that conclusion out of all the life lessons that you've experienced in your journey?
Getting old.
As simple as that. You just summarize that in 2 words.
I mean, like what I said before, right, about young people having that self-worth, right? A lot of us actually, even to a certain age, whatever age it is, we are so busy with doing what are we doing, right? But actually, we sometimes get lost in terms of knowing who we are, the person that we are. And I think that is one thing that I encourage everybody, doesn't matter if it's men or women or young or old, to always find out who we truly are. I just learned from actually the book that I chose for the book club, The Gifts of Imperfection. It talks about courage. And we think about the word courage, we think about heroic activities, like firemen going into the burning building. But actually the Greek word for, the Latin word for courage, cur, it's from French heart, it's to put yourself out there in a vulnerable way. All your vulnerabilities, you put it out there. That's courage. That's the actual meaning, right? But a lot of us today, especially with social media, we have to put this image of, oh, I'm a smart person, I'm a strong person, I've overcome my traumas and all of those things. We don't dare to put our vulnerabilities because we feel ashamed. We feel like people will love us less, right? Because why? Because we don't know who we are. So we feel so scared to tell people who we really are. So I think this is what I really want people to know, you know?
But you know, Grace, that is such a big question for us to find out who we are. That's not an easy task, right?
Absolutely not.
Especially in these days where new social media is really trying to dictate you. Like you need to be someone out there. You need to be famous. You need to have a lot of followers. There's so much noise.
Right.
How do we break through that? How did you find yourself?
Okay, so I mean, like, you know, if you look at me 20 years ago physically, I'm so different from now. You know me. Yeah, I was like obese actually. I was very obese, right? So I didn't have self-worth. I was like, everybody's, even back then with our social media, I mean, all the media is like, you know, skinny. So at that time, I was like, I feel so not confident. You know what I mean? And also, especially in those times, women also didn't have as many opportunities as today. So a lot of things are so different then and now. But again, unfortunately, time does bring me to this point, and for a lot of people, that would be the key, to have that time. But even for some people, time is not necessarily the answer as well, because if you are not looking, you cannot find it. Because you're so busy with a lot of things. This chaotic world is so busy telling you a lot of things you said just now. You are so lost in all these noises. So the key is actually to be calm and to find, you know, yourself, I guess, in that sense.
That's deep. And I mean, that resonates.
It's too early for depth today.
And I mean, that applies to women at all age, because no matter how old you are, sometimes you get lost again in life. You get lost again in your business.
Yes.
And you need to go back there to stay calm,
Right.
as you said.
And I think all of you, you have social medias, right? I mean, you are public personas. Jacqueline also has social media. I think there should be more of us who have these platforms and this voice to share our vulnerabilities. Not always like, oh, I have achieved this, I achieved that. For example, before the show, you told me that you went to a very good school, Harvard, right? That's an achievement. That's great. You should be proud of that. But also share like how hard it was, or like what maybe you got rejected from something else. Like, you know, if the more people share about their the reality, the more people realize, oh, life is not always perfect. She's not always perfect. She also had to go through a lot of things. I think that's real helpful as well.
And that also makes social media very real, because usually people just, as you said just now, they just post out all the good things.
Life is not always good, you know that, right?
Yeah, always the highlight reel.
It takes a lot of courage for us to expose, to be so vulnerable on social media, right? And I know that you've been doing that a lot on social media. Jacqueline have been sharing a lot of, you know, your past stories. And, you know, for me, as the public, you know, reading what you have shared on social media, I know that you are healing through that process too. Do you think that, I mean, what makes you be so courageous and brave to share your stories on social media?
Maybe because first time that I think the church that teach me that sharing is also can heal, it also can heal you. And I used to believe that we have to be, you know, not to talk about our own weakness or our own vulnerabilities, that especially if it's related to our family, because that's a very confidential that's a very sensitive issue. But when I share, I really be careful that it won't harm any.
I know, right? We are so oversensitive these days.
Family members, creates humiliation to any family members that I have. So maybe I just talk about myself, my feelings, and how to overcome that. That through the process, I think you're right that it can heal me as well. The sharing can heal me as well. And then there's a lot of people that also share, and then we can discuss and share our point of views and learn from each other, and it also can heal me.
Wow, and it must have taken great care as well, right? To represent the story, write the story that is authentic and true to yourself as well. Jacqueline. And one of the last questions that I'd like to cover is, we see a lot of the books that you write, Grace and Jacqueline, cover lots of advices about life that will, I believe, the impact would amplify in the next coming generations. Yes. Why is it so important for us, especially, to be reading these kinds of books? I heard that you have a book club, Grace, as well. What is the utmost significance of us enriching our minds with books such that you both have written? Grace.
Okay. Well, the book club actually is just one thing. I just want more people to read books. Simple as that.
Budayakan membaca.
Budayakan membaca. I think so important, especially with internet right now. Everybody's attention span is so short. So we want to get the habit of reading books. And I always tell people, you know what? Read whatever you like, even comics, as long as you're reading physical books or at least e-books, right? But anyway, back to this kind of books. I don't like the word self-help books because it feels so, I don't know, it's so like, what's the word? So bohemian. Like, you know, I don't like it, right? More like that. And I always say, you know what? Like with this kind of books that we have, the good thing is that you don't have to read from the first until the end, like back to back, the kind of thing. You can actually jump around into, you know, in whatever you want to read, because everybody's experience will be different. Your background and my background are so different. Our dynamics are so different. You might not be going through something about money, but maybe about love. So you can just go straight to the part about love section, right? That should be helpful to you. So I think it's not a self-help book, but it's more like, okay, we have gone through whatever that we have gone through, right? We want to share with you, and we hope that even if just one section of the book can help you, that's useful to you, we are so grateful. Simple as that. And the word is not self-help because we cannot help ourselves. We need to help ourselves, but we need the community to help ourselves as well. Sharing from people who have experienced that will help you as well. That's the whole point. So it's the what? help me book, I guess. Not self-help book, but help me book.
Yes.
Help me together with
Together, yes.
Exactly.
All right, that's great. And Jacqueline, perhaps some last words. What would you like to tell our audience about this book?
Okay, maybe simple, yeah. I think this book, it's cover a lot of challenge that we will face in common. And it's not only for women, actually. A lot of men message me that they got also help from this book, even from the previous book, because they now understand women better.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, because there's always women. There's always women in their circle, right? Even it's not, they don't have a wife or girlfriend, but they have like a teacher, a mother, sister, and colleagues. Then they can understand them better. And if we understand each other better, then we can create a better world together.
Wow, that is such a nice closing to our dialogue this morning. So for those of you who have not had this book, 100 Things I Wish I Knew Earlier by Grace Tahir and Jacqueline Karina, don't forget to go to your nearest bookstore and grab it, because we all learn so much. And 1 hour is not enough to discuss about all these life lessons.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here, and all the best for you, Jacqueline, for your birth. Your baby birth is next month, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
All the best for that.
Yes. We wish you the greatest wishes. Thank you again, Grace and Jacqueline, for coming on the show. And that also wraps up our show for today. Thank you, audiences and viewers, for staying tuned until this moment. We hope that you enjoyed this insightful conversation we've had. And I'm Audrey Utoyo.
I'm Luisa Kusnandar. Thank you so much for watching Starting Point. See you again next time on Starting Point, and have a good day. Have a good, blessed day ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.